about WI stuff.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Good? Good. Well, thank you for humoring me today. I'm sure you guys are excited about your semester here and this WI course, which means it's writing intensive. So, we know that the bulk of you guys are not writing majors, and you need refreshers on how to organize and write in an academic way, specifically as it suits purposes for your business majors, right? So, what I've created for you today is a presentation that basically just gives you an overview of the fundamentals of, the 5-paragraph essays, academic conventions, using introductions, thesis, topic sentences, transitions, all that. We're all familiar with that, correct? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, so you guys have a paper coming up next week. Don't put a whole bunch of pressure on yourself, okay? It's just a first draft, okay? Oftentimes, my professors in college would call it a shade first draft. And so that's where you just want to get your ideas on the paper, okay? So don't put too much pressure on yourself. I don't think I actually gave them a little introduction about myself. Did I?
No.
Did you?
Last week I told them nothing. So
Okay.
I didn't something.
Okay.
Except for you were awesome and you're gonna like her. I didn't give the background. So yeah, introduce yourself, of course.
Okay, sorry. Let me back up a little bit. Like she said, my name is Catherine Pope. I am a PhD student in Writing and Rhetoric Studies here. I also teach English at Nova Community College. I graduated with my master's degree from the University of South Alabama, where I also taught for 3 or 4 years, full load of English composition courses. That was fun. Before that, I graduated from the University of Hawaii in Hilo, where I got my bachelor's degrees. So yes, it was very fun living in Hawaii. I lived on an active volcano. The world's most active volcano, which has been flowing since 1983, the year that I was born. So yeah, I had that kind of effect on the world. That was a joke. Okay, couple other things. Office hours, okay. I believe, did you put it on the syllabus that it's 206?
Oh.
Is it 206?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Second floor,
So-
is that working?
Yeah.
5 other pens.
So you guys probably at some point may decide that you want additional help, additional guidance. Maybe you're confused about the assignment. Maybe you want a second set of eyes. I'm happy to oblige, okay? So on the syllabus, it says that I'm gonna have office hours from 1 to 2. It's actually gonna be from 1 to 3 p.m. because I have another section of Cheryl's that I'm also TAing in, and there's 2 other professors that I'm also gonna be TAing in. So there'll be a 2-hour window. Just make sure that you notify me ahead of time, okay? So that I know that when you're coming, so I don't overlap and schedule somebody at the same time. If you guys need help, I don't mind if you text me. It's actually one of the quickest forms of communication in terms of accessing me, so that's fine, no big deal. So that's my phone number. Any other questions about that? Yes.
This is Friday? Is this 1 to 3 on
sorry,
Friday?
it's
No.
Tuesdays.
Okay.
Yes, it's Tuesdays.
And your preferred communication is text, not email?
Either one. I check my
We
email
don't have an email.
night and day.
Yes, we did. It's in the syllabus.
Is it really? I don't.
kpope9@gmu.edu.
Yeah, it's kpope9.
You must have printed the old one. I uploaded
I
the
must
new
have
one.
printed the
Yeah.
old one.
Yeah.
I'll reprint.
I'm C19, she's kpope9.
Yeah.
It must have been planned ahead, I don't know. 9's a good number.
Is it masonlive.gmu? I've seen it. I've seen that.
That'll get there.
Okay. Yes, question.
Is that 3490 or?
Oh, it's 3998. And y'all, this is an Alabama area code. All right, so let's
No
get
wonder
on.
you got along so well with Tori.
Yes.
Dr. Grady.
Gosh,
Okay.
I can't remember where she said she was from. Opelika, I think. So, yeah, it was fun living in Alabama and the Gulf Coast. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and do sort of a brief review. So your introduction. Okay, so your introduction is just simply that. You're introducing the concept of your paper, okay? Think of, when you're writing your introduction, think of an inverted pyramid, okay? You're gonna start with broad information, okay? And then you're gonna move to more specific, detailed information, okay? So maybe you provide a general overview of the company you were writing about, maybe some background information. You already introduced the assignment? or-
Not yet.
Not yet.
After you leave.
Okay, all right, so just a quick review of that. You're gonna be writing an analysis of a problem that a company's having, okay, for your first paper, okay? And then a thesis. What's a thesis statement? Anybody remember what a thesis statement is? Yes.
It basically states what you're about to talk about through the paper.
Yes, absolutely. It's a summary and overview of your major points in your paper, okay? Oftentimes, it is one of the elements in an academic paper that students struggle the most with. And really, it's only because they overthink it, okay? So there's a strategy, there's a real easy method that you can employ when you're gonna be creating your thesis, okay? You guys are gonna be writing your paper in APA format, so you're gonna have different sections with section headings, okay? So if you could come up with one word that would describe each section, and then use that word, or those, let's say if you have 3 major sections, you guys have heard of the 3-pronged thesis, right? All right, if you're writing about fruit and you said apples, oranges, and bananas are great for the immunity. I know that's a horrible basic example, right? But your first section would be about apples, your second section would be about oranges, and your third section would be about bananas. So those 3 keywords would be included in your thesis statement. So if you could think of one descriptor word, an adjective, a noun, or a verb that would describe each of those sections, and then culminate that into one statement, that would be your thesis statement, okay? So I've given you an example here. If I were writing a paper on defining, treating, and prognosing diabetes for certain patient types, I might write one of the following as my thesis. It is important for medical professionals to understand the definition of diabetes, the various treatment methods, and possible prognoses for various patient types, okay? So what's my first section of my paper gonna be about? Based on this 3-pronged approach. What's my first section of my paper gonna be about? If I were going to use a noun or a verb to describe each section.
The definition of diabetes.
Right, definition, right? Okay, good. And this is a noun, right? Okay. What's my second section gonna be about? Treatment methods. And my third section?
Prognosis.
Prognoses. Rocket science, right? Okay, if I were going to use a verb in place of a noun to describe a section, that's completely legal. It's a legitimate move. You can say it is important for medical professionals to know how to define, treat, and prognosis diabetes for various patients. Okay, it's pretty simple stuff. Don't overthink it. Okay, if you need help, if you want to shoot me your thesis statement, I'll be happy to look it over. Okay. All right. The body of your essay. Okay, you're going to have 3 sections, which are going to be where you diagnose the problem. Okay, your next section is going to get to the root of the problem, the causes, and then the last section we're going to provide recommendations. Now, Cheryl, do you want them specifically to use the section headings, problem, causes, and recommendations? Or
Yes, or you can use step 1, step 2, step 3, because you're using the 3-step model we introduced last week.
Okay.
So you'll have an introduction section, which will be introduction, step 1, step 2, step 3, or problem, causes, recommendations, and then a conclusion.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you use the more formulaic approach where you use step 1, step 2, and step 3, just remember that translates to problems, causes, and recommendations for your thesis. Okay, that's the content. You guys know that each paragraph is a topic sentence that harkens back to your point in your thesis statement, but also provides a summary of the paragraph that's to come. Okay, and you also need transitions from one paragraph to the next. Okay, but you will also need transitions within paragraphs as well. Okay, and what that means is your ability to sort of build on one idea from the last. Okay, how many of you guys struggle with transitions or the flow, like when you're writing the flow of your paper, like you don't know where to go next? Okay, yeah, it's a common problem amongst writers in academia. So, so there is a strategy that you can employ for that. If you understand the types of relationships between ideas, you can understand where you need to go. Okay, most ideas, when you have a sentence, like, you know, sentence or two, okay, they're gonna be characterized by one of four relationships. It's continuity, okay? So a sentence builds on the last by expanding into specifics, okay, providing an example or clarification. Contrast, a sentence counters the last one and provides an exception to it, all right? Cause and effect, a sentence explains either cause or effect of the last sentence. Chronology, a sentence that builds on the last by mentioning an item in a series of actions or events. So if you're struggling with figuring out where you need to go next, ask yourself, what did I do in the last sentence, and what relationship do I need to employ in building my next sentence related to that last sentence, okay? That's how you can kind of systematically think about it, which might help in terms of establishing flow, okay? All right. Integrating research. How many of you guys have gone on, is it academic search, the search, I haven't used the academic search engines here yet. Is it academic search complete? EBSCO?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
academic search.
Good, all right, so maybe.
Business school has a lot of them. So how many have used George Mason Library? Almost all of us, yeah. So that's what we're talking about, using GMU approved references.
Okay, good. So it is EBSCO. How many of you guys have had some experience with getting on there and looking up peer-reviewed articles and integrating that in your essay? Most of you should have had that experience by now, especially in your early composition courses. If we have time, we'll walk through real quick and look at EBSCO, especially in terms of citations. They actually have a really easy way that you can cite from their actual website. Okay, but more importantly, well, citations are just as important across the board. Always cite, cite, cite. But really important is how you integrate that research into your essay, okay? You don't want to just arbitrarily insert a source, okay? That source has to be contextualized by what you're writing on, okay? So there's another strategy that you can employ in terms of figuring out how to use a source within the context of your essay, okay? The first one is to state your claim, okay? Your first sentence is stating claim, it's your topic sentence, right? Your second sentence is maybe clarifying that claim a little bit, providing a little bit more information. And then you integrate your source material, okay? And your fourth one is you synthesize. Anybody know what synthesis means, the word synthesis? Anybody?
Yeah, it's like bringing two things together into one.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't have to be two. It can be
There
3,
can be
4,
multiple-
5, 6.
multiple things.
There are multiple things. And so analysis is where you break things into parts, okay? Synthesis is when you build those parts back into something new, okay? So in terms of synthesizing a source within your essay, what you want to ask yourself is, how is the source that I'm using here related to my original claim, okay? And then the way that you answer that, that's what you would include next in terms of your original commentary, okay? So comment on how your source relates to the claim that you made. So here's an example. All right, so one of the leading causes of diabetes has to do with our American diet. That's my claim, right? Okay. I know this is riveting stuff. Some of you guys are looking at me with your eyes glazed over. Just bear with, okay? It's
Well,
important.
I told her she couldn't use our case study because that would be doing the job for you. So she picked a new example. So you want to, then when you go to page 118 in our case study, this is posted on Blackboard, see how she did it, and then change this analysis into the Amazon case study. So this is great stuff. It's
Yeah.
riveting, of course.
Okay, so like she said, this is just a structure that you can imitate, right? Okay, you're not going to actually write about diabetes. Okay, so that's your claim. One of the leading causes of diabetes has to do with our American diet. The expansion of that claim is our foods are high in fat, sugar, and salt, all which have addictive properties. Okay, that's the expansion. And then I include my source material. Notice that I introduce my source, the author, by her profession. If you just randomly said, Sam Smith says that diabetes is a bad thing, well, who's Sam Smith and why should I care what he thinks, right? Oh, he's a dietitian. Oh, so he's got some experience and background in this field, so he can be trusted, right? So you want to make sure that you introduce your sources. Okay, dietitian Reese Nichols says that people have difficulty stopping themselves from eating because the food industry purposefully adds higher amounts of these ingredients to hook consumers. Note the citation, okay? That's an APA, Anybody familiar with APA in here? Yeah, okay, good. Well, we're gonna go through and do a review of that, so. Always cite, right? Okay, so I have my source integrated, my citation, and then I'm gonna comment, okay, on the way that what she said relates to my original claim, okay? Synthesis relating source to claim. The epidemic of diabetes is directly correlated to the epidemic of food addiction, okay? Which happens to not only be a product of people's habits, but of the food itself. Does this make sense? Okay, does it seem like rocket science? No, okay. Any questions about this so far? Yes?
Yeah, so in my English class last semester, they were saying like the format of like the way that you integrated that quote into the sentence would be wrong because it like is you kind of just like threw the quote like in there and then just like ended the sentence instead of like integrating more of your own words into it. So I'm not sure if like that's if you want us to be doing like this kind of thing or if you want us to be like integrating more of our own words into like their quotes. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. You bring up a really good point, and obviously, depending on what professor you take, they might have preferences over another one.
Okay.
But I would say, just from a basic understanding of APA and how to integrate research, you want to think of it this way. First of all, is everybody got this? We're good? The first thing I want you to know is you only want to directly quote your sources if A, they're introducing some sort of technical, complex information that you actually need the original language that they've used, or they've said something so well, and so powerful, and so eloquent that you couldn't have said it better. Otherwise, always paraphrase, okay? There's a difference in the way that you cite in terms of paraphrasing, okay? You're gonna either do the author and the year for paraphrasing, and then for quoting, you're gonna do author, year, and page number. Or if it's an online source and they don't have actual pagination, printed page numbers within the actual document, not the numbers on the pages that you print out, right? But in the actual document, then you're gonna use a paragraph number to pull the quote from, okay? Does that help in terms of your question?
Yeah.
In terms of understanding how to integrate?
So should we be like trying to do more paraphrasing than actual
Yes.
quoting? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So if we're paraphrasing, like let's say it's a couple different like actual quotes in each thing, should we put the author and year after every single one, or can we do like a couple of different quotes with our paraphrases or statements in between, and then at the end of the sentence put the
That's a really good question.
author?
When in doubt, always cite, right?
Yeah.
Once you get a little bit more comfortable and knowledgeable about how to use sources in your research, you know, if you're speaking from the same source within the same paragraph, I would say a couple of citations throughout would suffice, right? What else? There's a couple of different ways that you can actually cite too. You don't actually have to stick to this format, okay? In terms of using this, as long as you include all three of the elements, or all two elements, depending on whether you're paraphrasing or you're quoting, you're in good shape. Notice here, Nichols, the author's names, in context of the sentence. So the only thing you needed for parenthetical information was the year and the page number, okay? So that's a legitimate move. Also is legitimate is if I just started with the quote, right? Let's say you've already introduced the source, and then you're down a few lines in your paragraph, and you just want to quote, you don't want to leave it, right? I would have had Nichols 2018, page 3. Does that make sense? So either one is legitimate. Another move that writers make is they would do Nichols 2018 in the actual sentence in parentheses, and then the page number in parentheses at the end.
Okay.
It's just a way, when you vary your citations, it's a way to break up the monotony of your essay.
That's why I didn't want to put that after every single
Right.
thing.
Yes.
But you could, I mean,
Right.
it is academia.
You could,
Right.
So,
but
Just don't want to, like you said.
in terms of style, you know, it's in grace and eloquence, it's better to vary, right? Okay.
And then I have one other question too. Do we not have to worry about having a hook sentence?
A hook?
Yeah, like anything to like draw the reader in or something.
If that comes in your introduction, Yeah, typically, and it depends on your audience, it depends on the purpose of
Right.
of the thing you're writing, right? This is more of an analysis, so I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say a hook is necessary, right? You're not looking to entertain, you're more looking to inform, right? So if you were working for a company and your job was to go in and assess the strengths and weaknesses of that company's, or the opportunities and the risks, okay, you're not gonna be trying to lead in with some
Right.
powerful, suspenseful story, right?
Right.
You're just trying to relay information to your bosses or your superiors or whoever's in charge of making the decisions based off your analysis.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions? These are good questions. You guys are engaged.
I was always taught that paraphrasing, you need the page number and like where you kind of got the source from, other than just the author and the year.
Not
so we
paraphrasing.
don't need to at all.
Not
for that?
paraphrasing, no.
It's interesting.
And here's an important thing. You bring up a very, very good point. What exactly is paraphrasing? If I went in and I just changed,
Breaking up.
a few words here and there, maybe use a couple of synonyms for some of the nouns or the verbs that maybe the author used, is that a form of paraphrasing? No, it's not. Mm-mm.
It's more like trying to make the same point, but in your own words, with shedding new light on
Right.
it.
And make
Even change in making sure that you change the syntax, the way that the grammar is structured in the sentence is important. But more importantly is when you paraphrase, what you've basically done is you've taken the information from the source, you've digested it, you've comprehended it, and then you relay it back out from your own comprehension, your own understanding. Okay, so it's like if you saw a movie last night, and then you went to lunch with your friend today, and you were going to tell her, what the movie was about. That would be from your own understanding, your own words. Okay, those are really good questions.
I told you the Friday class is awesome. Yes, you're posting this on my Wednesday class. The Wednesday class is awesome too.
Right.
Different
Okay.
audiences.
All right. So next, conclusion. Okay. This is where you wrap it up and perhaps point to a larger significance of your recommendation. A lot of people are like, conclusions are so boring because I just have to restate everything. Conclusions actually, rhetorically, are important. They have a purpose, okay? And oftentimes, when in your conclusions, you leave the reader with something further to think about, okay? So what you might consider doing in your conclusions is not only provide a brief summary of the points that you have, the major points that you've talked about in your essay, but speculate on how the problem or your recommendations might apply to the larger context of work and industry. Okay. Any questions on that one? No? Okay. All right, this is the fun part. And I stress this to my students in all the classes I teach. You guys, there's no reason why you should have points taken off for formatting. It is the easiest part of your assignment. It is simply following a checklist of rules and just going off and making sure that you have included all of those elements. What you want to be graded on most is the content of what you've written about, not in the way in which you formatted it, okay? But time and time again, people just across the board miss it, okay? There are plenty of resources online for accessing APA information. And I've also included lots of sources on the post for writing resources under course modules, right?
Right,
Course
content.
content, right. It's modules.
So everything she's presenting today is on our Blackboard site. You can access it after she leaves as well.
So this is the basic gist. 12-point font, 1-inch margins. You're gonna have section headings. You're gonna have a cover page with a running header, okay? In other words, running head, it only comes on the first page. And we're gonna see a sample in just a second. An abbreviated version of your title in all caps follow after running head, and then the all caps abbreviated title will be on every page. In the upper left-hand corner, in the upper right-hand corner, your page numbers, okay? Be sure to cite, and that any in-text citation you have within your essay has to have a corresponding reference on your reference page, okay? If you do not, that's plagiarism, okay? It's unintentional plagiarism, but it's plagiarism, okay? And you don't want to be brought up on any charges for that, especially if you didn't intend to do so. The best remedy and the best protection against doing anything of that or having situations occur regarding plagiarism. It's just being informed, okay? We just went over in-text citations and paraphrasing. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna bring up a sample. And you've got, can we see that okay? Okay, good. Oh, hold on a second. Let's do this first. Is that gonna take me out? Let's go back. Okay. The OWL at Purdue is actually one of the most prominent writing resources that schools across the country use. They have a whole writing center online that has everything you could think of in terms of writing topics, from grammar to style to organization to citing. So if you guys have questions, you know, and you want to find the answer yourself, you don't want to email me or Dr. Wood, you can just go to the OWL at Purdue. Okay. So this is a sample paper I pulled off from the OWL at Purdue. Everybody familiar with this format? You said that you've had some experience with APA, okay? Note that there is a cover page, right? And then you've got your running head at the top here, okay? You notice running head is actually not in caps, okay? The only thing that's capitalized is the R. You've got a colon, and then you've got an abbreviated all caps version of the title, okay? And then you have a page number. You've got your actual full title, okay? Your name, and then the university. We're going to go over a simplified version in just a second, because you're not going to be required to have all the elements of an APA paper. And an APA paper is going to change based on the context of what you're writing about, what course you're writing it for, or what research you're doing if you're doing some scholarship, okay? A lot of the biomedical sciences use APA, and so they have to have a lot more section headings. You're not going to need an author's note, but I wanted to show you guys the extended version of an APA paper so that you are aware and familiar that there are other elements that you might need to incorporate should you have to write it for another class that would require such elements. Make sense? Okay. You're not going to need an abstract, okay? But most APA papers have an abstract, okay? It depends on your professor. An abstract is just a summary of what the paper's about. Okay, and then you have, again, your abbreviated all caps title, and then the page number, okay? Then you have your section heading, okay? Section heading, right? And you can go down. Here's another section heading. Now, there are subsections of each major section, and there are different ways that you can label those, but you don't have to worry about that for this class. Just want you to be aware of that it's something you might have to do at some point if you're doing your own scholarship. And the conclusion, and then note how it doesn't say works cited, it says references, right? Okay, so that's just a real quick run through of an actual expanded APA paper. Now, for the purposes of this class, I pulled one of my composition papers from my English 112 class last semester. Okay, this is similar to what your paper will look like. Okay, so again, we have the running head, and then we have the abbreviated all caps title. Okay. Page number, full extended title, her name. There would probably be the college on their own if you want them to put George Mason University after their name or not. I don't know if that's necessary.
Usually I post an example cover sheet which has an academic honesty statement on it, so you have to sign it. And but this is okay. I'm okay with this.
All right, and so what you can see here is you've got the behaviors of man and nature, the page number. You've got your section, okay, introduction. So this might be, this would be where you put your introduction, and then her summary, which here you might put step 1 or the problem, right? And then her thesis, okay. And rhetorical analysis, this might be step 2, the causes of the problem for you, okay. And then step 3, all right, which would be your recommendations, and then conclusion. And that didn't get carried over to the next page. Just know it's supposed to come on the next page. And then her reference page. Okay? Does this all make sense? Okay, good. We're about to do an activity. Yay.
So the thesis goes in the introduction though. There wouldn't have been a separate section where they stated their thesis in our paper.
No, not in your paper. Your thesis is gonna come at the end of the introduction. This was something separate, in terms of the rhetorical analysis that she was doing, so. Before we launch into the activity, okay, so we've got a couple different options. You guys have your laptops here. So, you can either pull up the, sample paper that's needing APA style and, format it, start like going through and actually correcting the things on it. Or I can pass out the hard copy and you guys can just write on it. Which would you prefer?
Hard copy.
Huh?
Hard copy.
Hard copy?
Hard
Okay.
copy, good.
Alright.
Then they can take it home and remember what we talked about.
Right, well, and the only problem about this is I only printed enough for half the class, so I was gonna pair you guys, and I was trying to save paper, so.
So
Yeah.
pick a next door neighbor, one per group.
I guess I could be going around here too, huh?
You guys can share.
Oh, it's just let's do 0 points.
Oh, do you want me to take
Okay,
some of this?
yeah, sure, anybody wants to do it on the computer, that's awesome too. You can do it on the actual hard copy and on the
Yeah.
computer.
This is
There's something
recording,
in the way, so
this is recording
yeah.
for the other classes.
Interesting.
Katie, do you want to press pause or do you want the recording to go?
I'm just gonna let the recording go and then
Okay.
I'll just cut out.
Okay.
And then I'll cut out this section.
So can you work with them? Would that be better?
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
you can work over there. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that works.
All right. All right, before we launch into this activity, guys, I'm gonna go over, so right here you have the presentation that I just went over, under course content, week 2, writing basic contents, but you also have APA tutorials and sample papers here. Okay, this includes the paper I just handed out, which needs to be formatted in APA, and the sample basic one that we just went over here, okay? And then also the actual extended APA formatted paper. So, there's a couple other different resources on here I want you to be aware of. This is, I don't know why I didn't hyperlink, that's strange. This is a really comprehensive, resource for APA. Okay, it's very user friendly. Okay, it says how do I cite? So if you're depending on the types of the sources you're going to be using, I know that you have to integrate concepts from your textbook. So that's going to be you're going to cite that in terms of your reference page differently than you would if it's an academic article from a scholarly journal. Okay, so everything you could need or think of in terms of medium is on here. So you would go and you maybe click on journal articles, right? So this not only gives you the actual reference, but it gives you the way that you would cite in text if you were going to paraphrase or you were going to do a quote, okay? So like I said, this is a very helpful resource. It's also got sample papers, annotated bibliography if you ever do that for another class, and how to format in general the whole paper, okay? So again, that resource is listed on Blackboard. Check it out. It's very, very helpful. I've used it many times over. The other thing is, and I always get questions about this because people have difficulties navigating some of the features of Word. How many of you guys are using Word in here? Most of you, right? Okay, so let's just watch this quick video. It's like 2 minutes.
Might have to turn this down.
Okay, So in terms of integrating a running head, having different first pages, there's a couple of different features in Word that you're gonna have to utilize and turn on. So we're just gonna watch her right quick. This video is, like I said, on Blackboard, so if you forget, you need to come back to it. It's there for when you need it, okay? We have some.
I think I just turned it up.
You format. First, we're going to go to the insert. Is that better? And we're going to insert a page number. Drop down to top of page. We're going to insert plain number 3. The next thing we need to do is click this box here that says different first page, because in APA format, the header on the first page is going to be slightly different than the header on the rest of the pages. I'm gonna go scroll back up here to the first page. The very first page of your document, the title page, goes like this. You need to insert a page number again, top of page, plain number 3. And then you're going to type the words running head. Please notice that running is capitalized and the word head is not capitalized. This is going to be followed by a colon, followed by a space, and then I'm going to type the title of the paper in all caps. Once I do that, I need to hit the tab button. Maybe once, maybe twice, it depends on how long your title is. Just hit the tab button twice here. And then the last thing I need to do to make this header correct is I need to triple click on it and change the font to Times New Roman 12 point, which is what APA requires. Now look, it got screwed up. This might happen to you, but it's very easy to fix. All you do is position your cursor right here at the end of the title, and then press delete, and we're back in business. Okay, that's page 1. Let's take a look at what we do for the rest of the document. Scroll down here and click to get into the header. Got my page number, and then I do not need to type the words running head for the rest of the paper. I just need the title.
You know, you wouldn't have to retype it if you just copied and pasted that portion of the title. Shortcut.
The title is in all caps. And I'm going to hit the tab button once, and I hit it twice. I'm going to triple click on the titles. And I'm going to change the font to Times New Roman 12 points. And there we go. So the first page looks like this.
Okay.
The second page and any following pages look like this.
Awesome sauce. All right, so that's on there.
In this video, I'm going to.
It's on there for when you need to go ahead and format if you forget. Okay, need a refresher. So, okay. So let's go to your activity. Okay. And what I want you to do is, let me pull this PowerPoint back up. Okay. Did you guys notice my jokes here? Why is that funny?
Because Yoda doesn't have grammar.
Right, I will. Well, right? Okay, sorry. I'm a grammar nerd, so I thought it was hilarious. This one is, every time someone types too funny, I immediately picture them, this and there, going on a quest to find funny. Right? What needs to be corrected there? 2, right? Okay, good. All right, little laugh. All right, so here's the checklist, okay? So I want you to go through that paper that I've handed out, and I want you to write down in your notebooks on the paper, what needs to be added in, what needs to be corrected, okay? The citations are not in APA. They are actually in MLA, okay? So you can, if you have your computers, you can go to the Columbia College resource and utilize that as well if you need help. Okay, so just go through and work together, discuss what needs to be corrected, okay? Then we'll talk about it.
Is this online? Is the paper online?
Yes.
Margin.
This copy's online, and then so is the corrected version.
Hold on. Hold on, separated. I don't know.
Are you finding it?
I thought I did, but I don't.
Are you looking for which copy are you looking for?
Because I wasn't sure what she's reading it, I wanted to read it on there.
Okay, so it would be this one right here,
The top one. Thank you.
So how long do they have?
Yeah. Doesn't have a
It
title
shouldn't take
page.
that long.
Yeah, page number.
Does the
10
font look
minutes
big to
tops
anyone else?
to read
This looks like it's
newspaper.
14 font.
The header should be.
It might be 12. Maybe my eyes are just messing with me.
Oh, no.
It is 14? Oh, big brain plays over here. Also, these margins look stupid.
And this one's supposed to be to the end, right?
The margins look like half an inch. Yeah, this looks right. Yeah. And everything else is 14.
Okay, this is 40. So
And
40.
then the margins, I think, are half an inch as opposed to
The author, the year, and the page number.
And I'm sure,
And it's supposed to be at the end, or it can be in the middle.
Obviously, they don't have any headers. Yeah, they don't have any running head or any headers in general, so no page numbers, no nothing. It should be references in on a separate page.
It did the same thing.
It's and then I think she said these were MLA
It
format.
didn't say anything
I
else.
think so. It looks like something to roll on MLA. Wait, are they supposed to have like these things in APA? I don't know.
It's supposed to be.
Like have the bolded thing.
It's on top of the, yes, but it's on top of the.
Okay. Oh, like in the middle.
Yeah.
Everything that we talked about today is on.
The in-text citations, I think, are wrong. Yeah, they don't have commas in them. For most of them.
You see anything else?
Yeah, well, unless, is
Separation
she,
of the-
she's not paraphrasing, yeah, no, yeah. Or is she, no, it's Sam Smith, he's not paraphrasing. Well, in the paraphrasing, you don't have the page number, but this isn't paraphrased, so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dude, one of them, this dude even forgot a space, like, what the heck?
And it's not double space. No?
SMH. Yeah, the citation is garbage.
Serious.
Oh well, wait. I think
Nine.
this one
Did I
it can
call
be just a number
University
because
of
at the beginning of the sentence there he said as quoted in person, so like it already like mentioned the author.
And they're like, no.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
And the rules are really bad.
When I was coming, it was starting to slow. I came at 9.
When I don't have problems.
Yeah, they only put
So is there supposed to be like a
Even
break in between paragraphs,
I'm so
like an extra space? I don't know. It just looks bad.
Yeah, double space.
I'm
yeah,
that's what I. Or well, actually, oh, it is double space. Yeah, it wasn't on there originally. Oh, it's not. It's supposed to be single space, or is it supposed to?
Pretty much any active.
Yeah, but this isn't.
That's less than double.
No, yeah. I knew it was less than double space, but I didn't see that it needed to be double space. Just because you just added that real quick. I'm assuming somewhere in here they forgot to cite something, but I don't know everything.
You guys still talking?
I don't have this many ideas. I think many with the margin and simply.
You know, this just goes on the hair, like under the title.
What, this one?
Yeah, like the name and stuff.
So this here?
Under the title. Because well, it goes on the cover page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, on the cover page, so the title, then your name, your school.
Yes.
I think that's it.
I've never done it. And I know exactly.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I guess because it's double.
How many other people saw that 14 font? Boom.
You got one.
Awesome. I'm looking right here and I didn't even.
That's a good question.
No, I looked at it and I was like, this looks big for some reason. Because back in like high school, I would make my things a little bit bigger when we would print them out. I was like, they'll never notice. And so, the real thing is you can change all of your periods to be, instead of 12 point, you make them 16 point font, and it adds like a full page to your thing. It'll make every period bigger. Hey, if you need a page length and it's like 3 a.m., you're like, let me just add extra space with the periods. I'm not going to add any more actual content. I went to, so I was in Loudoun County, and there's this thing called Loudoun County's Academy of Science. It's kind of, do you know what Thomas Jefferson is? Yeah, it's like that for Loudoun County. So I went to that, and we had to do like a lot of like research.
I don't know if I can trust it.
And so,
And then
most of the time I was like, didn't really like write anymore.
I didn't know that it was delicious food until yesterday when I was reading. I was like, when I saw them, I thought it was cleaning or. I went to Walmart and find one. I mean, there was one at Walmart.
They make it all complicated.
It's so much food there. It's cleaning. I'm like, well, it's like it was
Okay,
doing
we're
inventory.
winding down in the
Serious,
interest of
man.
time.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Everywhere now.
So,
That's scary. For me, that's very scary. I don't know about you guys, but I felt threatened by those little things. And they're making them smart. Very soon they're gonna have an opinion. Oh, you're laughing, but you know exactly what I'm saying. Once they have an opinion, they don't have any system. You may think about, you are human. There's humanity in you, but there's no humanity in those things. People think I'm crazy when I say that, but I tell you, one thing, there's nothing human in them.
Okay, I see it's a little bit quieter, so let's let Katie wrap this up for you.
okay, let's see what you guys found. So what's the first thing that's missing from this sample paper?
Running head paper.
Cover page.
A cover page, right? Well, it's a title page, right? Okay. So what did it need on the title page?
The
Running header and a page number.
Okay. Running header and a page number, right? What else?
Title, name, school.
Right. Good. So let's see. Let me pull that up. Okay. So yeah, this is what it should look like now. One of you guys brought up a good point. What's your name?
Jared.
Jared. You want to talk about what we discovered?
Well, I just asked if there's supposed to be like a space between the lines. So
Here, is it supposed to be single spaced or double spaced here?
Double space.
It's supposed to be double spaced, right? So that's good. It's good that he found that correction.
That's our attention to detail
Yeah,
section.
that's awesome. Awesome, good job. Okay, what's next?
There's the margins levels, right?
No, good catch. Those margins are 0.5. What does it need to be? 1 inch, right? Okay, good. So that's what that would look like, right? So what's next?
It's also 14 font instead of 12.
It is 14 font. Good. I didn't know if you guys would catch that.
Big brain. I looked
Yes.
at the paper and was like, yeah,
Yes.
it's bigger.
What else is wrong in terms of the font and the format with
It's
these?
not double space.
It is not double spaced. That's like 1.5 or 1.15. I'm not sure. Okay, good. What else?
So crowded.
It's really crowded.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the effect of it not being double spaced and not having spaces or section headings. 1-inch margins. Yes, what
Is
else?
there supposed to be in between paragraphs an extra space in between the paragraphs?
Well,
or
when you double space,
it'll just
no. And that's a good question because I have so many students that actually have an extra space between their paragraphs.
Yeah.
But no,
Okay.
the amount of space between paragraphs should be the same amount of space that you have between lines within paragraphs. Okay, not extra spacing. Good questions.
Can we do
Yes.
extra spacing for the, like, each section then? No.
Nope. All double space. Okay. Good. What else? What else?
Reference.
The reference page. What's it say?
It said works
It
cited.
says works cited. It's supposed to say references.
and it's not.
And
on
it's
a separate
supposed to be on a
page.
separate page.
And it's not on a separate page.
Big brain.
And then there's one other thing that's missing here. Huh? I couldn't hear you, honey. Quoting. Okay. Yes. What about the citations?
It's
Supposed
They're
to be
wrong,
clean.
right? For APA, they're wrong, right? So what does it need? What does she need if she's paraphrasing?
Supposed to put the author on the end. In the middle.
Right.
Big brain.
Author and year. If she's quoting,
it needs to be a page.
it needs to be a page number. You need to have quotation marks, okay? And you need to have the period after the citation. Okay? Again, I'll repeat that. That's one of my pet peeves when I grade for some reason. Quotation marks for quotes, and the period comes after the citation. Okay? All right. Good.
Is the APA reference sheet double spaced or single spaced?
Double space. Everything's double space.
Is it a hanging dent or is it flush left?
It's a hanging dent.
Great.
Good.
They got it. This is a let's
Give yourself a round of applause.
Big brain.
Good deal. Okay, so that gives you a brief tutorial. Just one other thing I'm gonna touch on, and then I'm gonna give it over to Dr. Wood. Let's see. I just want to show you guys this real quick. Okay, so we got articles and databases. Let's just go to search. That's easiest. Okay. Where's EBSCO on here?
Because you know I work elsewhere, so maybe it's not. Is it there?
I'm looking for EBSCO.
What do you guys typically use? EBSCO? Business? What's your business? The lead? What's
Mason Libraries.
which ones do you recommend?
Okay, so that's a good question. Let me type in, let me see if I can just pull up EBSCO, George Mason University.
Jordan. Jordan.
You have an extra.
Okay, it's probably gonna, let's do business, okay?
I think it's gonna be at the top there.
Where?
Yeah.
E?
E or whatever's on there.
Ebook, oh, here we go, great.
Oh, good. I'm not as old as I thought. Well, I use that.
There should be one academic search engine. Here, academic search complete. Okay, good. This is where you want to go, guys. Okay, academic search complete. What it is like the Google of academia. Okay, the name implies exactly what it does. It doesn't single out one category, one genre, one subject area. It searches them all. That's just to start the broad a broad search, right? So. Do you know your credentials for this?
Well, if it's the same password
The
as
same.
we
Yeah.
have.
Oh, I know what it is. There we go. Awesome. Access denied. All right. Well, I'll see if I can't find a video
I think
of that.
because you tried 3 times.
Oh, you want to try right quick and see if we can get in?
Is this still being recorded?
So there's the Academic Search Complete, EBSCO. Obviously, if you go into the different discipline titles, like it's the School of Business, where it says Business and Finance, you're going to bring up different academic journals that you could search that's particularly related to.
Are they gonna call me?
Oh, Lord. Okay. Do you want them to call you or?
Well, that's the only way we can do it.
You do Interclass.
This is one time where we can use our phones.
Here we go. And press 1 on your phone to log in. That's okay. Alright, good. We're at APSCO, right? Alright, so let's see. Let's put in, we'll just do diabetes. I was gonna do Amazon, but I know you don't want me to give them any sort of. How many of you guys have had a tutorial on how to use all of these different? Okay, so you're aware. Okay, good. All right, so real quick, I just want to show you something that's really awesome here. So you click on the PDF full text. Okay. Look over to your right-hand side. Okay. And there's a button that says Cite. And then you've got APA. All you have to do is copy and paste. Really easy stuff, okay? So there shouldn't be any reason why your references are incorrect, okay? You may have to double space them and format it when you copy it into your Word document. But it's really easy. And guys, there's so many rules for styles across the board. You're not expected to know them all. You just need to know that you have to look them up and know where to go to use it, right? Okay? And then that's a good search engine, and then JSTOR. Anybody familiar with JSTOR? Okay, JSTOR is also another good search engine that you can find academic articles. Okay, just make sure you narrow your search. Okay, think about your research in terms of this quantitative and qualitative. If you are going to bring in a certain statistic and you're quoting a statistic from the year 2000, what's problematic about that?
Outdated.
Yeah, it's outdated, right? So you want to make sure, and I don't know what Dr. Wood's rule of thumb on this. I tell my classes if they're going to use numerical data, it cannot be older than the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, that may even be too old. I'm not sure the rate in which we develop research, right? Concepts, more theoretical information. Those are things you just have to use your best judgment for, because some things we still use, and it depends on the context in which you're using it. If you're writing on the history of a company, right? Then you might quote something that was in the 1990s based on that company. Okay.
So maybe one reference could be older, but you're looking, because we're great researchers at Mason, for current stuff. Try to get things that are relatively current, but maybe one management reference is a little bit older, that's okay. But don't put the whole reference sheet in the 90s.
Right, exactly, good. And make sure you change your search parameters. You can adjust the years on there so that it only yields 2015 to 2018, okay? JSTOR is really cool because you can just go off and you can just check based on subject. So if you just want to do business and finance, accounting, and just click those 3, it will only pull up journal articles from those 3 subjects, okay? Make sense? One other thing about this is you have to create an account. It is free. Actually, if you're logged into George Mason University, you should be able to access everything on there. Some of them do cost money, so I would just skip over the ones that cost money. The ones that are free, you have to click on the button "Add to my bookshelf" to access it, and then you just go into your account and access your bookshelf. Okay. Any other questions, comments? How many of you guys your head feels like it's gonna fall off?
We want to thank you for driving through a snowstorm to get here. Let's give it up.
Like I said, you guys text me, email me. If you want me to read over your papers, you can come see me during office hours or by appointment if I'm on campus. Okay? You guys have a lovely weekend. Be safe.
Okay, have some technology out, 10-minute break, and then we'll get into the next chapter and we'll talk about specifics of the paper. 10 minutes. Ready, go.